So hello friends, welcome back to our channel. In this video we will be seeing about the properties of the cardiac muscles. In this, the specific learning objectives of the muscle types that are present in our heart, also the anatomy and the physiological characteristics, physiological properties. The muscle types are basically three muscle types: the cardiac muscle fibers, and also the which includes the atrial muscle and the ventricular muscle. Apart from these, there is a special type of muscle which are called as the self-excitatory, or which are self-excitatory, which includes the neural cells like the sinoatrial node, atrioventricular node. Apart from this, the Purkinje fibers are also special type of muscle fibers. And then the anatomy. Anatomy here, we all know that cardiac muscles are involuntary muscles, but they resemble like that of the skeletal muscle because of the striations that are present. This means that actin and myosin filaments are present, and also these form a lattice network. These muscle fibers are arranged in the form of lattice, or what we call as the networks. Lattice network formation is seen. And then physiological properties. This topic is a very important topic. This is asked many times as a 5-mark question, and we will have a great emphasis on that also. So there are so many physiological characteristics the heart can show, starting from excitability, orthorhythmicity, contractility, conducting abilities, the ability to function as a syncytium, all or none law. There's so many things. We will see each of them one by one. The first thing being excitable. These cardiac cells are excitable because of whenever the muscle fibers are excitable, whenever there is a stimulus that is reaching towards the muscle fiber, and if that stimulus is above the action potential, is above the threshold potential, that will cause the contraction in the muscle fiber. So these are excitable. And next, autorhythm. These are self-excitatory. As I just said, the initiation of contraction of the heart, the total heart will not come from an outside source. It will come from in the cell source. Generally, it is SA node. Apart from that, ectopic node, the focus can be AV node, Purkinje fibers. Mana video and the next is the ability to contract. So the ability to contract. As I just said, when there is a stimulus that reaches the ventricular muscle, that will cause a contraction when this action potential is above the threshold potential. Cardiac muscles cells conduct impulses. So these cardiac cells have so much intercalated disc. These are the special characteristics of cardiac muscle, because these intercalated discs are basically the fusion of the cell membranes, and where there exist gap junctions. So when there is a stimulus that reaches a particular muscle fiber, this will transmit itself to the next fiber, through these intercalated discs. So the cardiac impulse muscle cells will conduct impulses that reach them. And the next thing is the syncytium, the ability to function as a syncytium. Syncytium is basically a very important property of a heart, because the syncytium means that it will function, the whole heart will function as a single structure rather than the skeletal muscle or something like that. The total heart will together contract. It is not just one part of the ventricle contract at a particular time, the other part contract at a different time. It is just the heart is a functional syncytium. This is again reason because of the ability to be syncytium is because of the intercalated disc. As I just said, these are the fusion of membranes, cardiac cell membranes. So at these points exist gap junctions. So when there is a huge number of gap junctions, these offer a very low resistance for conduction of these impulses. So when a particular impulse reaches the atria, when we say some part of the atria, the total atria, it will spread throughout the atria in a very short time, and the total atria will compress together, contract together. So the whole blood in the atria will be pumped to the ventricles. And now when this impulse reaches the ventricle together, all the ventricle muscle contract together, pushing the blood towards the systemic circulation or the pulmonary circulation. So the syncytium is basically of two types, atrial and the ventricular. So, but you could ask me why there exists two syncytium, atrial and ventricular. Why not they together function as a syncytium? It is because the atrial and the ventricular are separated by fibrous tissue, and the only connection that exists between them is the AV bundle. So the impulses from the atrium can enter ventricle only through the AV bundle and not through the the intercalated disc. So this gives this AV bundle that exists between them, given the heart an ability to delay ventricular contraction by a minute, by 0.11 second after the atria contract. So the atria contract, there will be a 0.11 second delay, so that the blood from the atria will enter into the ventricle, fill it up, and only then the ventricle will pump back. Because this is a very important physiological adjustment that will ensure that the ventricles don't pump an empty chamber. The ventricles will not be an empty chamber when they pump out the blood. After that, we are having we have the all or none law. So as I just said, action potential, when they are above the threshold potential, it will create a contraction such that one state there will be no contraction at all. When the stimulus is below the threshold, there will be no contraction at all. But when it is equal or above, there will be contraction. So either there is one state of none, or the total heart will contract together. And the next stage is the next property is the long refractory period. First of all, to understand what is a long refractory period, we will first know what is a refractory period. So basically, if a refractory period is like when the potential of the cell will increase. At this point, any further additional impulses will not create any changes to the cell, because already the cell is completely depolarized. Any new impulse will not further depolarize it. All the channels are open, all the influx of the sodium, influx of the calcium is all happened. So at this stage, any new impulse will create no change to the contractility. But this is called as the absolute refractive period, because in this period, whatever may be the strength of the incoming stimulus, there will be no contraction. But after some time at this part of the cycle, there will be relative refractory period. At this time, not all the channels are open. Some few channels are closing, and there is a repolarization happening because of the efflux of the potassium. This can be decreased by a potential, but the threshold potential will not be the regular threshold potential. You have to give us additional strength, but however may be the strength, it is possible to depolarize it. So this period is called the relative refractory period, and this is the absolute refractive period. The heart cells are said to have a longer refractory period because the calcium channels, we will see that later, calcium channels remain open for some time, so that there exists a plateau. If you see the electrical activity, you will see that there will be depolarization at a plateau and then repolarization, ventricular muscles. So at this point, there is a longer refractory period. You have to there is no time for this ventricular muscles to be given a new impulse. After that, the extracellular calcium, the calcium that is present outside the cell, the ECF compartment, will also affect how the ventricular muscles or the heart muscles in general will contract. Because if you take a heart cell, there will be this depression called the T tubule. These T tubules will have calcium channels themselves, or else they will produce an action potential that will go and trigger the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcoplasmic reticulums are the source of these are the sarcoplasmic reticulum. It is the source of the calcium. The calcium that is needed for the muscle contraction come from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So either the T tubule will transmit the action potential to the sarcoplasmic reticulum to release calcium. This happens through long sarcoplasmic tubules. And the second thing is that the T tubules itself will allow transmission of calcium through the voltage dependent calcium channel. Through the voltage dependent calcium channels, the external calcium will enter into the cell through the T tubules, and this T tubule stimulus when there is a stimulus that is reaching the T tubule, the action potential will cause the opening of voltage dependent calcium channels, and this voltage dependent calcium channel will inlet calcium, and that will go and bind to the ronidine receptor, which are present on the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and again there will be even more calcium release. So the sarcoplasmic reticulum in a cardiac muscle is not very well developed, but the T tubules is said to have a larger 25 times volume. So the 25 times volume will store large number of calcium, and the mucopolysaccharide are also store calcium in between them. So there is two factors that will promote the storage of calcium. They are having a huge volume, and they have mucopolysaccharide. And the last before the Frank-Starling's law. This Frank-Starling law states that when the ventricle is filled with a large amount of blood, basically when there is a large amount of blood that is coming into the ventricles, the ventricle will contract, and when there is a stretch in the muscle fibers of the ventricles, this will create a greater force of contraction. The heart is designed in such a way that whatever is coming into the heart will be sent out. If you are pouring in a large amount of blood, it will be pumped out with a greater force. So this is the Frank-Starling law. And finally, they are non-fatigable. If you see, the heart muscles are functioning from the beginning of our life, from 4th week or something, and till death. So these shouldn't be allowed to even fatigue. This non-fatigability is caused by the 4 properties: long refractory period, rich blood. This rich blood will supply greater amount of oxygen, and also there is a huge mitochondria concentration inside this muscle cell. So longer refractory period, rich blood, and mitochondria, and also these because of the huge blood, they will undergo aerobic respiration. This aerobic respiration will not produce any lactic acid. So when there is no lactic acid accumulation, there is no fatigability. So in this video, we have seen the different type of muscle fibers, the anatomy, and the physiological properties. Physiological properties we have stated a great number. Sorry for this mess I have created here. I will try to maintain a better format. So these cells are excitable, autorhythmicity, the contractility, the conducting ability, the ability to function as a syncytium, the all-or-none law, the longer refractory period. The longer refractory period will give us something like 0.25 to 0.3 seconds. There will be an absolute refractory period, and after that 0.05 seconds there will be relative refractory period. And the extracellular calcium concentration, how are they important, the Frank-Starling law, and also the non-fatigable nature of the cardiac fiber. So thank you.